We actually just looked at the product. It works, it was fast, and not only were the customers using it, but the developers were using it. And he was like, end of story.
So what we saw is exactly what you saw back then, which is DeFi was just beginning to take off. Digitization of assets was just taking shape. And you could have seen this maybe 3 years ago in the big boom cycle of 2017. You could see that people had a yearning for digital assets and they loved it. They experienced it so much better than anything else that pertains to trading online. And yet, what we saw was essentially a sandbox. What we saw was a glimpse of the way things could be if only the underlying technology could scale. And we could see that it couldn't scale. DeFi, in fact, to date, has mostly been relegated to a very small audience. Was an audience that was there to understand the technology, and also an audience that had the cash to be able to pay for the enormous transaction fees that it usually takes to interact with DeFi on platforms like Ethereum. So 3 years ago, what I saw was the Avalanche consensus protocol. And at the heart of all of these blockchain systems lies a consensus protocol. And the protocols that preceded us, the protocols that came before Avalanche, all were limited in how much they could support and what kind of scale they could get up to. And once you loaded them with millions of users, they started running into limits. And when they run into limits, the very first thing that happens is that the fees go up and the system gets bogged down. And it becomes a network for bots and whales. And I saw in Avalanche a way out of this. Avalanche could suddenly give us scale so high that the fees would be in the sort of flat portion of that hockey stick. They would not balloon up. And I saw in Avalanche a network architecture that could accommodate many different kinds of assets and allow us to take the technology out of the sandbox and bring it to the masses.